Have you ever noticed how the world teaches us to chase everything except peace? We are told to run faster, achieve more, prove ourselves louder, yet no one shows us how to sit quietly with our own hearts. We decorate our lives with success, but inside we may still feel restless, unsettled, searching for something we cannot name. Tonight, I want to talk about that missing piece. Not the applause, not the approval, not the trophies, but the calm strength that allows you to stand steady when life trembles around you. Because inner peace is not a luxury for the fortunate, it is a necessity for the brave. And the truth is, it does not arrive by accident. It is built step by step, choice by choice, within the sacred space of your own soul. There is a quiet power that rises in a person the moment they stop running from their own story. For too long, many of us have treated our past like a shadow we must outrun, as if distance could erase what has already shaped us. We hide the chapters that feel messy. We lower our voices when speaking of our failures. We polish our victories but bury our wounds. Yet the truth is this: your story, in its entirety, is the soil from which your strength has grown. Without the storms, there would be no roots. Without the breaking, there would be no becoming. Shame convinces us that our mistakes define us. It whispers that we are not enough because we stumbled, trusted the wrong people, chose the wrong paths, or stayed too long where we were not valued. But mistakes are evidence of living. They are proof that you dared to step forward, even without guarantees. A life without missteps is not a life of perfection. It is a life never fully lived. When you begin to see your past not as a verdict, but as a lesson, something shifts within you. The weight you have been carrying starts to feel lighter. Embracing your story does not mean celebrating your pain. It means acknowledging it without letting it control you. It means saying, yes, that happened. Yes, I fell. Yes, I was broken. And then choosing to stand anyway. There is dignity in honesty. There is freedom in owning your truth before someone else tries to define it for you. When you speak your story without shame, you reclaim your power from every moment that once tried to steal it. Think about the strength it took to survive the nights no one saw. The courage it required to keep going when doubt filled your mind. The resilience that carried you through rejection, disappointment, and loss. Those experiences are not stains on your character. They are medals of endurance. They shaped your compassion. They deepened your understanding. They refined your wisdom. You are not weaker because of what you endured. You are wiser. There will always be voices ready to judge, to misunderstand, to reduce you to a single chapter of your life, but you are a whole book still being written. Do not hand someone the pen and allow them to summarize your existence by one mistake or one season. Stand firmly in the knowledge that growth is part of being human. Evolution is natural. Transformation is possible. When you embrace your story without shame, you also give others permission to do the same. Your authenticity becomes a mirror in which someone else may find the courage to face their own truth. And in that shared humanity, healing multiplies. Peace begins the moment you stop arguing with your past and start learning from it. You are not your worst day. You are not your deepest wound. You are the survivor of it. And that is something to carry with pride, not silence. There is a deep exhaustion that comes from trying to control everything. We try to control how people see us, how quickly success arrives, how smoothly life unfolds. We rehearse conversations in our minds, we anticipate problems that have not yet happened, and we hold our breath as if our worry alone can keep the world from shifting. But life has never asked for our control. It has only asked for our presence. The more tightly we grip what was never ours to command, the more restless our spirit becomes. Control often disguises itself as responsibility. We tell ourselves that if we just try harder, plan better, think longer, we can prevent disappointment. Yet there are winds that will blow no matter how carefully we prepare. People will change, opportunities will close, delays will happen, and sometimes Despite our best intentions, things will fall apart. This is not failure, this is the rhythm of being alive. When we attempt to control what is beyond our reach, we place ourselves in constant conflict with reality. We argue with what already is. We resist what has already occurred. But peace does not grow in resistance, it grows in acceptance. Acceptance is not surrendering your dreams. It is understanding that you can guide your actions, but you cannot dictate every outcome. You can plant the seed, water it faithfully, nurture it with patience, but you cannot command the rain to fall on schedule. There is great freedom in recognizing the boundary between effort and obsession. You are responsible for your choices, your integrity, your attitude. You are not responsible for how others interpret you. You are responsible for your work. You are not responsible for every door that refuses to open. When you separate what you can influence from what you cannot, your heart begins to rest. Releasing control also requires trust. Trust that even detours carry lessons, that delays are not always denials, that closed doors may be protection rather than punishment. Often what unsettles us most is uncertainty. We crave guarantees. We want assurance that our effort will be rewarded exactly as we expect. But life rarely unfolds in straight lines. It curves, it pauses, it surprises, and sometimes the unexpected path reveals strength you did not know you possessed. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the quiet confidence that says, I will do my part and I will allow life to do the rest. When you loosen your grip, you create space. Space for creativity, space for peace, space for possibilities you could not have planned. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to move with life instead of against it. The river does not force its way around every stone. It flows, adapting without losing its direction. In the same way, you can move forward without demanding control over every current. And in that surrender, you will discover something remarkable. The world feels lighter, your spirit feels steadier, and peace no longer seems distant. It becomes your companion. There is a quiet prison that many people live in without iron bars or locked doors. It is built from resentment, reinforced by replayed memories, and guarded by the belief that holding on to anger somehow protects us. When someone wounds us, the pain feels sharp and immediate. And in that pain, we make a silent promise. I will not forget. I will not forgive. It feels powerful in the moment. It feels like justice. But over time, that promise becomes heavy. Unforgiveness ties you to the very moment that hurt you. It keeps the wound fresh, as if it happened yesterday, even if years have passed. You may move forward physically, but emotionally you remain anchored to that single experience. Every time you replay it, your body relives it. Your heart tightens again. Your peace slips further away. What began as a shield slowly becomes a chain. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It is not saying that what happened was acceptable. It is not pretending the pain did not matter. It is not inviting the same harm back into your life. Forgiveness is a decision to stop allowing that moment to control your present. It is choosing your freedom over your pride. It is saying, I will not let this bitterness live rent-free in my spirit any longer. There is courage in forgiveness. It requires you to release the hope that the past could have been different. It asks you to let go of the expectation that the person who hurt you will fully understand your pain. Sometimes they will apologize, sometimes they will not. But your healing cannot depend on their awareness. Your peace cannot wait for their transformation. When you forgive, something shifts inside you. The tightness begins to soften. The constant replaying begins to fade. You create space where anger once lived, and in that space, new strength grows. You realize that you are not defined by what someone did to you. You are defined by how you rise beyond it. Forgiveness does not always happen in a single moment. It can be a process, a daily choice. Some days you may feel strong and liberated. Other days, the memory may sting again. That does not mean you have failed. It means you are human. Each time you choose not to feed the bitterness, you are healing. Each time you refuse to let anger dictate your mood, you are reclaiming your power. And sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. We hold on to our own mistakes longer than anyone else does. We replay what we should have said, what we should have done, how we should have known better. But self-forgiveness is just as essential. You cannot move freely if you are constantly punishing yourself for a past version of who you were. To forgive is to declare that your future matters more than your pain. It is to open the door of that quiet prison and walk out, even if the memory still lingers behind you. And when you step into that freedom, you will feel it, a lightness, a clarity, a deep breath that reaches your soul. There is a constant hum in the world around us. Opinions travel faster than truth. Expectations press against us from every direction. Social media, family traditions, cultural standards, comparison, competition, they all speak at once and loudly. Over time, that noise can become so familiar that we no longer realize how much it is shaping us. We begin to measure our worth by applause, to question our path when it looks different from someone else's, to doubt ourselves simply because we do not fit the mold. And in all that noise, the most important voice, our own, grows faint. Listening within is not as simple as closing a door or turning off a phone. The outer noise often awakens inner noise, self-doubt, fear, old criticisms that still echo in our memory. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room is the one that says, "You are not ready, you are not capable, you are not enough." If we are not careful, we mistake that fearful voice for truth. But fear is not wisdom. It is only a protective instinct that has overstayed its welcome. To truly listen within, you must become comfortable with stillness. And stillness can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. When there are no distractions, no scrolling, no background chatter, you are left alone with your thoughts. At first, they may race, they may wander, but if you stay long enough beneath the surface noise, you will find something steady, a quiet knowing, a gentle clarity. Your intuition does not shout, it whispers. That whisper may guide you in ways that do not always make logical sense to others. It may nudge you toward a path that feels uncertain but deeply aligned. It may tell you to rest when the world says push harder. It may encourage you to walk away when everyone expects you to stay. Listening within requires trust. Trust that your inner compass is valid, even when it points in a direction different from the crowd. When you constantly seek validation outside yourself, you become dependent on shifting opinions. Praise lifts you up. Criticism tears you down, but when you are anchored within, external reactions lose their power to define you. You can receive feedback without losing your balance. You can accept disagreement without doubting your worth. Your center holds. Creating space to listen within can be as simple as a few quiet minutes each day. A walk without headphones. A journal where you write honestly. A pause before making an important decision. In those moments, ask yourself not what will impress others, but what feels true to you. Not what is expected, but what is aligned. The world will always have something to say. It will always offer advice, judgment, comparison. But peace grows when you learn to filter that noise instead of absorbing it. When you honor your inner voice, you begin to live with intention instead of reaction. And in that alignment, you will find a calm confidence, a steady rhythm that belongs entirely to you. There comes a moment in life when you realize that constantly saying yes has cost you more than you can afford. Yes to conversations that drain you. Yes to obligations that exhaust you. Yes to people who take more than they give. At first it feels generous, it feels kind. But over time, that endless availability begins to chip away at your spirit. You find yourself tired without knowing why, resentful without wanting to be, overwhelmed without clear cause. What you are truly experiencing is the absence of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls built to shut people out. They are doors that decide what may enter. They are acts of self-respect. When you set a boundary, you are not declaring war. You are declaring worth. You are acknowledging that your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being are valuable, and anything valuable must be protected. Many of us were taught that prioritizing ourselves is selfish. We were praised for sacrifice, applauded for endurance, admired for tolerance. But there is a difference between kindness and self-abandonment. When you consistently ignore your own needs to accommodate others, you slowly disconnect from yourself. Peace cannot survive in that disconnection. Setting boundaries often feels uncomfortable at first. You may fear disappointing others. You may worry about being misunderstood. Some people may resist the new limits you establish, especially if they benefited from your lack of them. But discomfort is not a sign that you are wrong. Sometimes it is evidence that you are growing. A boundary can be as simple as saying, I am not available for this conversation right now. It can mean limiting access to people who consistently bring negativity into your space. It can mean choosing rest over obligation. It can mean refusing to engage in gossip, conflict, or drama. Each small act reinforces a powerful message to yourself: my peace matters. When you honor your limits, you begin to notice a shift. Your energy becomes more stable. Your relationships become clearer. Those who respect you will adapt. Those who cannot may drift away. And while that may feel painful, it also creates space. Space for healthier connections, space for deeper joy, space for calm. Boundaries also protect your emotional responses. You are not required to react to every provocation. You are not obligated to solve every problem presented to you. You can listen without absorbing. You can care without carrying. You can love without losing yourself. Over time, boundaries strengthen your sense of identity. You learn what feels right and what does not. You become less afraid of standing alone if necessary. And in that courage, there is peace. Because peace thrives where respect lives. Not only respect from others, but respect from yourself. When you set boundaries that protect your peace, you are not pushing the world away. You are choosing to stand firmly within it, grounded and whole. And from that place of wholeness, your kindness becomes genuine, your generosity sustainable, and your presence powerful. Not because you give endlessly, but because you give wisely. It is easy to complain. In fact, it is almost effortless. The mind naturally notices what is missing, what is delayed, what feels unfair. We wake up and see what is not working before we acknowledge what is. We focus on the inconvenience instead of the opportunity, the obstacle instead of the lesson. And slowly, without realizing it, complaint becomes a habit, a lens through which we view the world. But gratitude changes the lens. Gratitude does not deny difficulty. It does not pretend that pain is pleasant or that struggle is simple. Instead, it widens your vision. It allows you to hold two truths at once. This is hard, and there is still something here to appreciate. When you begin to practice gratitude intentionally, your attention shifts from scarcity to sufficiency. You start noticing what remains instead of what has been lost. There is always something: the breath in your lungs, the strength that carried you through yesterday, a lesson learned from a mistake, a kind word from a stranger. Even in seasons of uncertainty, there are quiet blessings that go unnoticed because complaint speaks louder. Gratitude softens that noise. It trains your heart to look for light, even when the sky is gray. Complaint drains energy. It keeps you stuck in what you cannot change. It magnifies frustration until it feels overwhelming. The more you rehearse what is wrong, the heavier it becomes. Gratitude, on the other hand, restores energy. It reminds you of your resilience. It reconnects you with hope. It anchors you in the present moment rather than in regret or worry. When you choose gratitude, you also change the atmosphere around you. Your words become less sharp. Your presence becomes lighter. People feel steadier in your company because you are not constantly feeding negativity. Gratitude is contagious. It invites others to notice their own blessings. It creates a ripple effect of perspective. This does not mean you silence your concerns or ignore injustice. There is a time to speak up, to improve, to seek change. But there is a difference between constructive awareness and habitual complaint. One empowers action. The other breeds helplessness. Gratitude strengthens you so that when you do confront challenges, you do so from a place of balance rather than bitterness. You can begin simply. At the end of each day, recall three things that went right. They do not have to be extraordinary. Perhaps you completed a task you had been avoiding. Perhaps you laughed. Perhaps you endured something difficult and did not give up. Over time, this practice rewires your focus. You begin to expect goodness instead of assuming disappointment. Peace flourishes in a grateful heart because gratitude reminds you that life, even with its imperfections, is still offering gifts. When you choose gratitude over complaint, you reclaim your power to define your experience. And in that choice, day after day, you cultivate a quiet joy that no circumstance can easily steal. There is a space between what happens to you and how you respond. It is small, often no wider than a breath, but within that space lies your power. Many of us were never taught to pause there. We were taught to defend quickly, to speak sharply when wounded, to match anger with anger. Reaction feels immediate and satisfying. It feels like strength, but more often than not, it is simply unhealed pain speaking out loud. When you have been hurt before, even a small disagreement can feel like a deep threat. A simple comment may echo past criticism. A delayed reply may awaken old fears of rejection. Without realizing it, you are no longer responding to the present moment. You are responding to every unresolved moment that came before it. And so the reaction becomes larger than the situation requires. Healing invites you to slow down. It asks you to notice what is truly being triggered. Is it the current event, or is it an old wound asking for attention? This kind of awareness requires honesty. It requires you to admit that not all your strong reactions are about other people. Some are about the parts of you that still need care. Pausing does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means allowing them to settle before you act on them. There is wisdom in taking a breath, in stepping away from a heated exchange, in choosing silence until clarity arrives. When you react immediately, you often speak from hurt. When you respond after reflection, you speak from understanding. Healing also teaches you to separate intent from impact. Not everyone who disappoints you intended to harm you. Not every mistake is a betrayal. When you are unhealed, you may assume the worst because you are protecting yourself. But when you are healing, you allow room for conversation instead of conflict. You seek understanding instead of victory. This does not mean you tolerate disrespect. It does not mean you ignore your boundaries. It means you address issues without letting old pain dictate your tone. There is a difference between asserting yourself and attacking. One builds clarity, the other deepens wounds. As you heal, your reactions become less intense and more intentional. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth in every disagreement. You no longer chase the last word. You begin to value peace over pride. And that shift changes your relationships. It changes the atmosphere around you. It changes you. Every time you choose to pause instead of explode, you are breaking a pattern. Every time you reflect before responding, you are strengthening emotional maturity. Healing is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming balanced. It is about understanding your emotions so they do not control you. In that small, sacred space between event and response, you discover freedom. Freedom to choose wisdom over impulse. Freedom to protect your peace. Freedom to grow beyond the version of yourself that once reacted from pain. And that freedom is a quiet, powerful form of inner peace. There is strength in staying, but there is also strength in leaving. For many of us, walking away feels like failure. We were taught to endure, to fight harder, to prove our loyalty by how much we can tolerate. We confuse perseverance with self-sacrifice. We convince ourselves that if we just try a little more, give a little more, bend a little further, things will change. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do is recognize when something is costing you your peace. Not every environment is meant to grow you. Some only drain you. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some are lessons wrapped in human form. When you constantly feel anxious, diminished, or unseen in a space, your spirit is sending you a message. That uneasiness in your chest, that heaviness you carry after certain conversations, that quiet dread before entering certain rooms, those are not random feelings. They are signals. Walking away does not always require drama. It does not require harsh words or grand announcements. Sometimes it is a quiet decision made within yourself, a decision to no longer engage in conversations that disrespect you, a decision to stop explaining your worth to people determined not to see it, a decision to choose environments that nourish rather than deplete you. There will be guilt. You may question yourself. You may wonder if you are giving up too soon. But ask yourself this: are you leaving because it is difficult or because it is damaging? Growth can be uncomfortable, but it does not strip you of dignity. It does not constantly erode your confidence. It does not demand that you shrink to survive. When you remain in spaces that disturb your spirit, you slowly begin to doubt your own light. You adjust your voice. You silence your opinions. You laugh at jokes that wound you. Over time, you forget what it feels like to be fully yourself. Peace cannot live where you are pretending. Walking away creates space, and in that space, clarity arrives. You begin to remember who you were before the tension, before the confusion, before the constant self-questioning. You rediscover the calm that comes from not having to defend your existence. You breathe differently. You stand differently. Some people will not understand your departure. They may call it selfish. They may call it dramatic. But only you can feel the disturbance within your own spirit. Only you know how heavy it has become. Protecting your peace will not always earn applause, but it will earn you alignment. And sometimes walking away is not about another person at all. It is about leaving old habits, old mindsets, old versions of yourself that no longer serve you. It is about stepping out of patterns that keep you small. Growth often requires release. When you honor the quiet warning within and choose peace over prolonged discomfort, you are not escaping, you are evolving. You are choosing a life where your spirit feels safe in your own presence. And that choice, though difficult, is a profound act of self-love. There is a voice inside each of us that never stops speaking. From the moment we wake to the moment we sleep, it narrates our experience, comments on our choices, and judges our worth. For many, that voice is harsh, relentless, unforgiving. It points out mistakes we made yesterday, magnifies flaws we wish we could hide, and predicts failure before we even try. We listen to it as if it were truth, and slowly we begin to believe it. But that voice does not have to be your enemy. You have the power to change how you speak to yourself. Speaking kindly to yourself begins with awareness. Notice the tone you use in your inner conversations. Do you criticize when a task goes wrong? Do you call yourself names when you stumble? Do you rehearse imagined failures before they even happen? Awareness is the first step because you cannot change what you do not see. Once you notice your internal dialogue, you gain the ability to intervene. Kindness toward yourself does not mean ignoring mistakes. It does not mean pretending that you are perfect or that struggles do not exist. It means treating yourself with the same compassion you would offer someone you love. When you stumble, instead of saying, "I'm worthless," you can say, "I am learning, and this does not define me." When you fail, instead of dwelling in shame, you can say, "I tried, and that effort matters." Your words can either cage you in fear or lift you into possibility. The words we speak to ourselves shape our perception of the world. When your inner voice is gentle, patient, and encouraging, you notice opportunities instead of obstacles. You respond to challenges with curiosity rather than defensiveness. You take risks without terror because failure is no longer a verdict on your value. It is a lesson in growth. When you speak kindly to yourself, you create a foundation of trust. You become your own ally instead of your own adversary. This practice requires patience. Old patterns die slowly. And at first, the kind words may feel foreign. You may catch yourself slipping back into criticism, only to realize moments later and correct it. Each correction is a step forward. Each gentle thought builds resilience. Over time, speaking kindly becomes a habit, not an exception, and your inner world begins to reflect that care. Kindness also nurtures courage. When you speak to yourself with compassion, you are more willing to pursue your dreams. You are less likely to abandon them at the first sign of difficulty. You are more capable of forgiving your mistakes, recovering from setbacks, and celebrating small victories. Life becomes less about proving your worth to others and more about honoring your own journey. Remember, you are with yourself every moment of every day. No one else inhabits your mind as completely as you do. The way you speak to yourself echoes into every choice, every relationship, every act. By choosing kindness, you cultivate peace. By choosing gentleness, you invite growth. By choosing encouragement, you create a life where your spirit feels safe, valued, and loved. Life has a rhythm all its own, and often it moves at a pace that feels frustratingly slow. We set goals, make plans, and chase deadlines as if the universe is bound by our schedules. When things do not unfold as we expect, anxiety rises. We wonder if we are failing, if we are too late, if the world has moved on without us. But time, like the seasons, cannot be rushed. There is a natural order to growth, and each moment arrives exactly when it is meant to. Trusting the timing of your life requires patience and faith. It is the courage to keep walking forward, even when the path seems unclear. You may plant seeds today and see no sprouts tomorrow. You may speak words that feel unheard. You may take steps that seem small, almost invisible. But each action contributes to the unfolding of your life in ways you cannot yet see. The soil is preparing to hold you, and the roots are deepening quietly beneath the surface. Impatience is often born of comparison. We look at others and see their progress, their accolades, their milestones, and measure ourselves against them. This is a trap because no two lives follow the same timeline. What seems late for one may be perfect for another. The universe does not make mistakes, and neither does your journey. There is a divine timing that governs the unfolding of your dreams, and resisting it only creates tension. Trusting timing also means releasing control over outcomes. We are taught to plan meticulously, to predict, to secure every result. Yet life's greatest gifts often come unannounced in forms we did not anticipate. Opportunities arrive when we are ready to receive them, not necessarily when we demand them. Sometimes doors close so that the right doors can open. Sometimes delays are blessings in disguise, giving us the space to grow stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what lies ahead. Faith in timing is not passive waiting, it is active preparation. It is showing up for your growth daily, doing the work that is yours to do, and trusting that the results will arrive in their appointed season. You water the seeds of your potential with effort, patience, and persistence, knowing that the bloom cannot be hurried. You honor the process as much as the outcome, understanding that each stage is necessary, each lesson valuable. When you surrender to timing, anxiety loses its grip. The constant rush, the pressure to perform, the fear of being behind, all of these begin to fade. You begin to see that life is not a race, it is a dance, and each step, whether forward or seemingly small, is in harmony with the rhythm of your soul. Trusting your timing allows gratitude to flourish. You can celebrate progress without comparison. You can appreciate growth without the shadow of impatience. You can honor your journey, knowing that what is meant for you will arrive not a moment too soon and not a moment too late. In this trust, there is peace. In this trust, there is freedom. And in this trust, you discover the extraordinary beauty of your life unfolding exactly as it should.